Hello, everyone, and welcome to season 3 of Shenanigans with Shreya. We are starting this season with a very special guest I'm very excited to have today. He's a registered pharmacist, a nutritionist, and skincare chemist with over 40 years of experience. Benjamin Knight Fuchs, welcome to the Shenanigans of Shreya podcast. How are you doing today?
Did you actually say Shenanigans with Shreya? Like, that's totally cute. Shenanigans. All right.
Yeah,
All
that's the
right.
name.
I like that, Shreya. Nice to see you. Is that a real background or is that
Oh
AI
no, it's
background?
it's green screened, like
Oh, green screen. It's
green
beautiful
screen.
though. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
So welcome to the podcast. And
Thank you.
before we get into the nitty-gritty science, I did want to ask a little bit about your own background and how you
Okay.
entered the world of skincare.
Okay. It's a super cool story. So
Mhm.
I was a chemistry nerd, chemistry geek when I was a kid. I had a chemistry set and I loved playing with chemistry and it's always fascinated me. But I also liked writing, so I went to journalism school and I got a degree in journalism. But I couldn't make any money, and I was always had this thing about chemistry in the back of my head, and I always loved food as chemistry. And I was an athlete, so as an athlete, we were studying nutritional supplements and we were working out with. This is a long time ago, the 1980s. And so I got this idea, crazy idea. I was going to go to pharmacy school to study food as
Mhm.
as medicine. Let medicine be thy food and let food be thy medicine. Hippocrates said a long time ago. So I
Yeah.
thought it'd be really cool. Well, I went to pharmacy school, and the first day of pharmacy school, the dean interviews you, and he wants to know like why you want to go to school, pharmacy school, why you want to be a pharmacist. And I said, I want to study food as medicine. And he thought that was the funniest thing he ever heard. He laughed so hard. He said, well, we do drugs here. We don't do anything about food. This is all pharmaceuticals. And I was already in pharmacy school, and yeah, I heard pharmacists made a lot of money, and I was married at the time, so I decided I'd stick with it. Well, I was not very happy.
Mhm.
The first semester of pharmacy school, you're studying how to open up a pharmacy, how to stock your shelves, nothing about chemistry, nothing about medicine. And I was just really frustrated. One day I was walking through the basement of the School of Pharmacy in Boulder, Colorado, and I was very frustrated, I remember, and I wanted to be a chemist. I wanted to be in a lab. I really wanted to play with chemistry. And I smell this pepperminty smell coming out of one of the rooms. And I go into the room, and there's the coolest laboratory I'd ever seen with Erlenmeyer flasks and distilling software and scales and shelves of ingredients. And in the corner, there were rabbits and mice. And it was just the coolest lab I'd ever seen. I got all excited. And there was this little old man. He was tinkering around some beakers. And I go up and I start talking to him, chatting him up, and we're hitting it off. And at the end of maybe 15, 20 minutes of talking to him, he says to me, Ben, I need a research assistant. You want to be my research assistant? And I'm like,
Mhm.
what? I couldn't believe my luck here, right? Well, it turns out
Yeah.
that this lab was the Blistex research facility. I don't know if you ever heard of the lip medicine. Have you heard of the lip medicine Blistex? Here in
I
the
have.
United States, it's a big product here in the United States. Blistex. It's a lip balm. It's probably the most important or the most best-selling lip balm in the country. And
Mhm.
Dr. Jones, this little man I had chatted up, he was the guy who invented Blistex, and this was the Blistex research facility where all the Blistex products were
Oh.
developed. And so for the next 4 years, while my fellow students were off getting internship hours in drugstores, you have to have a certain amount of internship hours to be a pharmacist. I was getting my internship hours in the Blistex lab, learning about the formulations and chemistry and research and skin and healing and just everything you could possibly want to know about how you treat the skin, specifically the lips, which, as you may know or may not know, are super skin because they're sticking out. So nature has equipped the lips to be extra skin with extra chemistry and extra protective molecules. I got a soup to nuts background on formulations and ingredients and lips and research, etc. I
Mhm.
graduated pharmacy school. I go out to work in drugstores. I never really worked in drugstores. I didn't because I was getting my internship hours in a lab.
Mhm.
But I found myself gravitating to the skincare section in the drugstores because I knew what skincare was from a formulation aspect because I'd made pounds and pounds and pounds of them of skincare products of all kinds, but I never used skincare products. I was a kid. I was a 25-year-old guy. What the heck did I know about applying skincare products? So, but what I did know was ingredients and I knew formulations. So I would grab the bottle of Lubriderm or Oil of Olay or Nivea, the standard creams and products people were using, and I'd read the ingredients and I would go, oh my God, I
Mhm.
can't believe that's in there.
Yep.
And then I would read the ingredients and I'd say, there's nothing in there that could do anything for the skin because I knew how to make things happen in the skin. And skincare products were not leveraging what I had learned in working in the Blistex lab. And then on top of that, Shreya, people
Mhm.
come to my pharmacy and say the same thing that you probably said, or you've heard your mom say, or you've heard other people say, nothing helps my dry skin. Nothing helps my acne. Nothing's helping my wrinkles. My skin is drier after I put my moisturizer on than before. There was this sense that nothing worked, of just complaining about skin and skincare. And so I kept hearing this over and over. And finally, I had an epiphany. One guy came into my pharmacy. He had a terrible condition called alligator skin. We now know it as concrete dermatitis. I don't know if you've ever seen alligator skin. You get blisters and fissures. It's an awful condition. And I
Yeah.
just got this epiphany, this aha experience. I said,
Mhm.
I'm going to go in the back and I'm going to mix some stuff up and I'm going to give it to this guy. And I'm kind of giving you the Cliff Notes version here, the shortened version here. But long story short, the stuff that I mixed up for him in the back of my pharmacy worked
Mhm.
so well for this guy that his doctor started calling the pharmacy up and started asking for the pharmacist who makes the skincare products. And I developed this little business of creating topical products for individuals who had topical issues. And I developed these strategies for healing the skin. And what
Mhm.
ended up happening was people would not want to stop their product even after their skin was healed, even after their burn healed, or even after their trauma healed, or even after their acne improved. They'd want to stay on their products because what was happening, Shreya, is
Mhm.
as the products were healing the skin, they were making the skin more beautiful. And
Aw.
I realized that the missing link in skincare is healing. And if you don't have a skincare product that can heal a burn, it's not a beauty product either. And so I developed these strategies, and which we'll talk about today, for
Mhm.
healing burns and traumas and preventing post surgical scarring, and I reapplied them for beauty. And these strategies involved internal nutrition, digestive health, a new way of looking at how you create a topical product that will interact not with the skin, Shreya. You don't
Mhm.
want to interact with the skin if you want a beauty product or a health product.
Mhm.
You need to interact with the skin cell. And that's the key. And I think you mentioned that you want to go into the medical route. Well, let
Yeah.
me tell you, you probably know this, and I as a pharmacist, I know this deeply. We have more doctors, more drugs, more hospitals, more know-how, more expensive healthcare, more of everything. But we're the sickest, the fattest, the most cancer-ridden culture in the history of mankind. Why? Because Shreya, we don't address the cell, the living entity of the body and of the skin. And this is true internally. When you have diabetes, you have a pancreatic cell issue. When you have osteoporosis, you got a bone cell issue. When you have a movement disorder, you got a brain cell issue. You know, there's
Mhm.
no such thing as breast cancer. There's no such thing as prostate cancer. There's no such thing as bone cancer. There's no such thing as liver cancer. There's liver cell cancer. There's prostate cell cancer. There's bone cell cancer. Disease and health are cellular in nature. And this is not only true about health, it's true about beauty. And this is going to be a theme. What's true about health is going to be true about beauty. And if
Yeah.
it's true that you
100%.
got to address the cell from a health perspective if you want to be healthy, not the organ, the cell, not the body, the cell. It's true about beauty as well. And so the aha experience I had was to figure out how to activate the cell topically using chemistry only as far as the chemicals were electrically active. So I created a strategy that addressed the skin cell as an electrical system, as a battery, and in conjunction with nutritional strategies, nutritional supplements, and dietary and digestive strategies. If you go on Trustpilot and read our reviews, you'll see. I almost hate to talk about what I'm doing because it's so revolutionary and it's so effective. And that's the story. And today, what I do is I educate people not only on how to take care of their skin, but how to take care of their bodies. And if you go online and look me up, you'll hear me talking about cancer and Parkinson's disease and autoimmunity, as well as rosacea and psoriasis and wrinkles and acne. Because you know what? The skin is what? The body's largest organ. It's
Mhm.
part of the body. It's not some dead surface that you can just rub stuff on. We have this idea that, oh, I'm going to rub stuff on my skin, and if it feels good, that means something's happening. Baloney. That's a trick. They want you to think, oh, that feels like something's happening, so something's happening. No. In fact, if you can feel your product on the skin, that tells you it's not in the cell. It's still sitting on the skin. And most skincare today is like putting a blanket on top of this living, responsive, intelligent bioelectrical system, shutting it down, which is why nobody's happy with their skincare. Everybody's looking for the latest, the greatest. This esthetician, this doctor, this dermatologist, this herb from the rainforest, this peptide, this reptile egg or snail slime or There's this craziness in skincare because nobody's happy. And the reason they're not happy is because our strategies are antiquated. Do you know that the modern skincare business was born at the turn of the 20th century? I mean, you said you're 23 years old, right?
Yeah.
Well, you might want to dive into the history of skincare because the history of skincare is 150 years old, and it's based on these ideas that are antiquated, anachronistic from a time gone by. The godmothers of skincare
Hmm.
were Helena Rubinstein. Have you heard of her? Helena
No,
Rubinstein?
actually, I haven't.
Helena, she's the godmother of the modern skincare business. Elizabeth Arden. Have you heard of her?
I have,
And
yeah.
Estee Lauder. And
Oh.
these were the three godmothers of skincare, grandmothers of the modern skincare business. And they were great. Helena Rubinstein is the one in 1900 who came up with dry skin, oily skin, combination skin, which is all baloney. Nobody
Hmm.
has dry skin all the time, oily skin all the time. It's responsive to the environment, to your diet, to your nutritional status, to your stress levels. She didn't know that. She was a little old lady from Poland who just wanted to be in the skincare business. She didn't know anything about how the skin was put together, but she's the one who invented these kinds of distinctions that we still use today. And then came Elizabeth Arden, and Elizabeth Arden was the one who turned skincare into a daily kind of routine with cleanse and tone and moisturize. We still do that today. Elizabeth Arden, she might have been a great marketer, but she didn't know anything about the skin. She didn't know a keratinocyte from a hole in the wall. She didn't know what a fibroblast was. She didn't know anything about it, but we're still using her strategies. And then Estee Lauder came around, and she's the one who invented the sampling and the marketing of skincare and the aspirational aspect of skincare. And we're stuck in that same model. And it hasn't changed. And the end result is people are not happy with their skin and they're not happy with their skincare. Well, my message is we have to rethink how we address this living, intelligent, responsive, and most importantly, bioelectrical organ that is integrated with the body as a system and responsive to digestive health, blood sugar health, cortisol, and the thyroid. And until we start to address the inside out nature of the skin, as well as
Hmm.
the intelligent, responsive, and bioelectrical nature of the organ, we're not going to be happy. And that's why I started True Treatments. And that's what my message is to the skincare using public and to the skincare loving public, because we all love skincare. I love it as much as you do and as much as your listeners do.
100%. There's lots to unpack there. So
Mhm.
I also think, just like from our listeners' point of view, if you pick up any bottle that you have at home, like a cream or anything, most of the time there's just like horrific ingredients on the back that we never look up really. So I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned that you used to like make the formulations at the back of your pharmacy. Do
Yeah.
you have any like favorite or most
Y-
important ingredients that you'd consider?
yes. Yes. Let me ask you. Hey, you look like a young, healthy, beautiful lady. What is
Mhm.
the most important ingredients class, not single ingredients, but class of ingredients for your heart or for your liver or for your spleen or for your lungs or for your brain? What are the most important class of ingredients if you want to address heart disease or heart health or neurological issues? What is the most important class of ingredients? One
Uh,
word.
like a three, I think.
No, not specific ingredients,
Oh.
class of ingredients. But that's one of them.
Mhm.
Class. What's that a member of?
Fatty acids?
Close.
Ooh.
Nutrients.
Oh,
Nutrients.
yeah. Hmm.
Nutrients. In fact, there's a lot of things that can be function as nutrients, but there's 90 essential nutrients. What does that word essential mean in the world of nutrition? Essential means you have to have it, or else you die, or else you suffer from a deficiency disease. So if you don't have enough vitamin C, that's an essential nutrient, you get scurvy. You don't have enough niacin, that's an essential nutrient, you get pellagra. You don't have enough thiamine, essential nutrient, you get beriberi, etc. Right? Vitamin D, rickets, that's the way we measure the essentiality of a nutrient. And it turns out vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and fatty acids are classified as essential in the sense that you won't be optimally healthy without a maximum amount of these nutrients. So, what do you think if those are the most important ingredients for your heart and your spleen and your lungs? What do you think the most important ingredients for your skin will be? Given that the skin is is an organ of the body, nutrients.
Yep.
Duh. Hello. You don't
Mhm.
need snail slime. You don't need reptile eggs. You don't need the latest herb from the rainforest. You need nutrients inside And that's why I talk about nutritional supplementation and diet and foods and digestive health so much. And what I discovered outside as well. And so my true treatment formulations are essentially topical nutritional supplements in transdermal vehicles. And what I did was, and by the way, I had to do this because I have a dermatology pharmacy. I'm a dermatology pharmacist. And so I'm dealing with patients who have trauma. I'm
Mhm.
dealing with patients who have severe burns. I'm dealing with patients who just came out of cardiac surgery and have a long cut across their chest and they don't want a scar. I'm
Mm.
dealing with parents who have babies who fell out of their high chair and have this big gash on their forehead. I'm
Mhm.
dealing with people who have serious health problems. Now, you say, well, it's only the skin. Well, if you have psoriasis, it ain't just the skin, it's a serious problem to you, or acne, or a wound, or a burn. And so I couldn't play the same games that the cosmetics world plays. I couldn't say, "Oh, Cindy Crawford loves this wound healing product." You know, the world of pharmacy has gravitas. It has seriousness. So I had to come up with a strategy that was not cosmetic, that was not superficial, that was not, "Oh, this feels lovely," that was really effective, that was really going to create cellular and then tissue and organ changes. And the strategy I had is so silly. For
Mhm.
the life of me, I can't figure out why nobody else is doing this. I took the bologna out of the product. I took the water out. I took the silicone out. I took the vegetable oil out. I took the preservatives out. I took the feel good ingredients out, the textural agents. I took everything out of the product, the
Mhm.
formula, that would not benefit the skin cell, and I replaced it with nutrients and transdermal penetrating aids.
Mhm.
Transdermal means through the skin, and this
Mhm.
is something we study in pharmacy school. And I took some of the lessons that I learned as a pharmacy student. I just applied to formulation chemistry, where I took nutrients, mixed them with transdermal penetrants, and created an entirely different way of treating the skin. So that when you use my Truth treatments, you use 1 drop or 2 drops because
Mhm.
they're so active and they're so functional. The worst thing you could do is slather a product on your skin. Number one, what are you slathering on? Do you have any idea? Number two, you're suffocating the skin. It's like putting a blanket on this beautiful, exquisite, intelligent living organ. You only want to put 1 or 2 drops of a product on the skin if that product is active, if it's functional, if it's doing something. And so
Mhm.
this new way of treating the skin is more akin to medicine. If you're sick and you have a really bad cold and you get, I don't know if you have amoxicillin in the UK. Here, there's an antibiotic called amoxicillin, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you have a cold. The doctor gives you 30 amoxicillin, and the directions are 1 3 times a day, right? Do you say, "Oh, I'm really sick. I'm going to take all 30 pills all at once because I'm so sick"? Of
Mhm.
course not. That's ludicrous because each pill is powerful. And that's why you take it 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. And you have to wake up in the middle of the night to take it. That's what you do. And you
Mhm.
take it for 10 days because it's medicine. It has seriousness. It has gravitas to it. What is
Mhm.
the one thing you want your medicine to do when you go to the drugstore, Shreya? One thing and only one thing.
To
What,
cure you.
to work,
Yeah.
right? What's the one thing you want your skincare products to do?
To also
One
work.
thing.
Yeah.
Skincare should be medicine.
Mhm.
Skincare should be medicinal, not drugs.
Mhm.
Not drugs. People sometimes say to me, "Ben, you're a pharmacist. How come you don't talk about drugs?" Because I really don't like drugs. As a
Mhm.
pharmacist, I'm privy to what they do, and I don't, there's times you need them, of course, but for the most part, I tell people avoid them if you can. And so
Mhm.
people say to me, "How come you're not talking about drugs? You're a pharmacist." You know what I say? I say I am talking about drugs,
Ooh, yeah.
divine drugs,
Mm.
which is what vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and fatty acids are. They're nature's medicine. They're the medicines the cell evolved with over the course of billions, billions of years. The cell has been on planet Earth, the advanced cell has been on planet Earth for 2.5 billion years. Cells in general for 3.5 billion years. And in that time, the cells have developed a menu with which they want to eat from. So what I say is let's give them the menu. Let's give them the vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and fatty acids that A, they grew up with, and that B, that are so deficient in the standard American and likely the standard UK diet. See,
Mhm.
with all the health challenges that we have, and we are a sick culture. I'm talking about Europe in general, the world in general, and the United States. But you
Mhm.
know what? We're not really sick. We're starving.
Mm.
We don't need to be fixed. We need to be fed. And the medical model doesn't do that. The medical model is about jury rigging, tweaking, cutting things out. Oh, we'll lower your blood pressure by poisoning the blood vessel system. We'll lower your blood pressure by poisoning the heart. Oh, you have heart failure? Oh, no problem. We'll just poison the heart so it doesn't work as hard. Oh,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have blood
Mhm.
clots? Oh, we'll just poison the clotting system so it stays thin. This is how the medical model thinks. Now, in fairness, there are times you need all these strategies, but for me, I'm going nutrition every time. And that's why I talk about internal nutrition so much. And that's why I talk about topical nutrition as well.
100%. I used to think a lot about like the overprescription problem that there is in the healthcare system with just,
It's terrible.
prescribing drugs, but like not
Terrible.
addressing lifestyle issues. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
Really glad
That's
you said
why
that.
young people like yourself, you're going to change the world.
Mm.
You'll understand this, that the old model is antiquated. It's from the Middle Ages. I don't know if you like history, if you follow history at all, but when the Enlightenment came about in the late 15th century, it was revolutionary to have all of a sudden organs and systems, because before that, they thought little elves shot arrows at you and you got sick, or you breathed in evil humors. That's what they
Yeah.
attributed disease to, right? The four humors, the four bodily humors, right? And then when the Enlightenment came about, they said, no, there are organs and there's a circulatory system, and there's a strategy that you can use. Well, that's all well and good, but today we understand something that they didn't understand in the Enlightenment, and that is that the body is a system.
Mhm.
And this came from something called systems theory. And systems theory says sum of the parts is greater than the individual parts, and that everything works together like coherently. And that's really what sickness and health are about. Coherence. Have you ever been to the symphony? Right?
Yeah.
So you go to the symphony and you walk in and they're all tuning up and it's like cacophonous and there's all this noise and it's just this mess. And then they start playing and it's the most beautiful Beethoven or Vivaldi or
Yes.
Rachmaninoff, whatever. It's
Mhm.
gorgeous. That's coherence. When they were tuning up, it was incoherent, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden they play the music, and it's coherent. Coherence is like the difference between a light bulb and a laser. A light bulb gives off light, and you can read with it, but you're
Mhm.
not going to shoot a satellite out of the sky with a light bulb. You're not
Mhm.
going to run your computer with a light bulb or your CD player with a light bulb. You're not going to carve out a tumor with a light bulb, but you can do that with lasers. Why? Because a laser has coherency. The light from a laser is coherent. The light from a light bulb is incoherent. Well,
Mhm.
when we age, we lose coherency. Disease is incoherence. And so, what I'm trying to tell people is that we want to recohere the body. And this is what electricity does. And this is what magnetism does. And this is what my skincare products do. We
Mhm.
recohere organs and tissues and chemistry so they can operate more efficiently. And that's how we want to start looking at disease, health, and beauty, as well as beauty and skin health, is we want to look at recohering the body. And by the way, one of the most important places where coherence is relevant in the body is really interesting, is in the water. You
Oh.
have, right? You've heard this probably. Everybody's heard this. Oh, the body is 70% water. Body is 60% water, right?
Yeah.
No, it's not. If the
Mhm.
body was 60% water, 70% water, you would be a puddle sloshing around. Every
Mhm.
time you took a step, you'd be sloshing, right? Does that happen? Of course it doesn't happen.
Mhm.
If I'm 70% water, I should be able to squeeze my arm and water will come out. Well, obviously that doesn't happen because we're not 70% water. We are 70% coherent water. And this is a very special kind of water that we've only known about for 30 or 40 years. It's a water that is like a laser. The water that's in your tap or that you drink, that's incoherent water. That's like the kind of water that comes from a light bulb in our
Mhm.
metaphor. Or that's the kind of water that's at the beginning of the symphony when they're all tuning up. The water in the cells and the water in the tissues and the water in the skin is like the symphony playing Vivaldi or Rachmaninoff. It's like a laser. And so the key to anti-aging, which, I don't know if you want to talk about anti-aging, you got a long way to go before you're worried about anti-aging, but
Mhm.
still for your listeners, the
Yeah.
people who care about it, is to recohere the liquid phase of the body. When the liquid phase of the body, the 60 to 70% of the body that they talk about, is coherent, it functions like a solid, like a liquid solid. Literally, can you imagine this? A liquid
Yeah.
solid. And this liquid solid conducts information and electrical energy incredibly efficiently. In fact, if you take a rock and you throw it in a pond
Hmm.
or a body of water, the rock will form ripples, right? Right where you threw the rock, and the ripples are stronger, but then the ripples fade as they move forward in the water, right? When you have coherent water, the ripples don't fade, the ripples stay the same. And this is how the body functions. This allows the body to conduct electrical energy more efficiently. This allows the body, most importantly, to conduct or to produce or to uh, uh, deliver information more effectively. And this is what keeps us healthy and youthful. And there's three elements in the body, three main elements in the body that cohere the water. They call it, by the way, structured water. You may have heard this term structured water. Some people say easy water, crystalline water. I call it magic water because it's so amazing, right? The molecules are aligned coherently. There's three major elements in the body that structure the water.
Hmm.
And these three elements, as we age, become deficient. Element number one, collagen structures the water. And this is why building collagen is so effective. And that's one of the main targets of my skincare products is the fibroblasts that make the collagen. The more collagen you have, not only the more structure you have, but the more coherency you have, and the more effective the information transfer is. The second element is high hyaluronic acid. You've heard of high hyaluronic acid, and now there's high hyaluronic acid in all kinds of skincare products. Here's a funny story if I take a quick digression here.
Yeah, no worries.
When I was working for Blistex, we used to keep the high hyaluronic acid under lock and key, right?
Mhm.
And if anybody ever took high hyaluronic acid out, you have to write down how much you took and you have to sign your name because it was precious. High
Mhm.
hyaluronic acid costs you thousands of dollars a gram. A gram
Wow.
is like a fifth of a teaspoonful
Yeah.
because the only place you could get high hyaluronic acid back in the 1980s was from rooster combs.
Mhm.
Have you ever I don't know if you ever felt the comb on the top of a rooster's head,
Oh, okay.
right?
I
It's
yeah,
it's it's squishy. I don't know. I'm sure you weren't born on a farm or lived on a farm, probably, right?
vaguely aware though,
Oh
vaguely
yeah,
aware.
you're vaguely
Yeah.
aware, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, feel your earlobe. Feel your earlobe. Squeeze your earlobe. That's high hyaluronic acid.
Okay.
Hyaluronic acid has a squishy quality to it. It's
Mhm.
amazing stuff.
Mhm.
And that squishy quality is the end result of hyaluronic acid cohering the water. Hyaluronic acid makes the water cohere, and it turns the hyaluronic acid in the water into a gel. It organizes the water within the matrix, they call it, of the hyaluronic acid, and it feels squishy. So the first element for cohering the water is the collagen. The second is the hyaluronic acid, and both of these come from the fibroblast. And this is why targeting the fibroblast is so important, and this is what true treatments do. And then the third element is ionic minerals, electrolytes, potassium and calcium and sodium. And these are universally deficient in the standard American and standard UK diet because of soil depletion, because
Mhm.
of how we grow our crops. So between minerals or electrolytes, if you will, and hyaluronic acid and collagen, you have the three main structuring elements for cohering the water. And keeping the water coherent is the raison d'etre, the very essence of anti-aging skincare and beautification skincare. And that's what Truth Treatments is all about, is creating coherency in the body through topical nutrients, as well as, and I always have to say this, internal strategies. The digestive system is key. You've got to understand this phenomenon called leaky gut. I don't know if you've heard of this term, leaky gut. Have
Yeah,
you heard of
yeah.
this?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
behind everything,
Mhm.
everything, all chronic disease, all skin issues from aging to melasma to barrier disruption to eczema. It's all leaky gut. So understanding how to patch up the gut, correct what's called dysbiosis. I don't know if you heard that term, correcting dysbiosis and making sure the digestive system is operating pristinely from the stomach to the pancreas to the gallbladder to the liver to the intestine, as well as the blood sugar system, because disruptions in blood sugar, and I didn't say diabetes, I said disruptions in blood sugar, meaning dysglycemia, as well as changes in insulin. Those are going to have negative impact on the skin. And finally, what they call the HPA thyroid axis, or the adrenal thyroid axis, if you will, where
Yeah.
cortisol is produced and hypothyroidism is the end result of that. That also has to be addressed. Between what I call the triangle of disease, which is the digestive system, the blood sugar system, the adrenal thyroid complex, and topical nutrition, you not only have strategies for beautifying the skin and making the skin healthy and healing the skin, but also for keeping the body whole and healthy and intact so we can live our God-given, genetically allotted 120 years lifespan instead of being lucky to get half that much and breaking down a quarter of the way, breaking down. Most people start to break down at age 40 or a third of the way.
Yeah. No, I'm really glad because I did want to talk a bit about the gut-brain axis as well because
So important.
it's I think recently come into view that, oh my God, our emotions control our skin, our health
Everything.
in general, our
Everything.
gut also. So I wanted to ask you because a lot of our listeners might be having, breakouts, pimples on your cheek or your
Yeah,
forehead, things
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
What do you think that the body's trying to like tell you internally or like
I'll tell
nutrition wise?
absolutely. Your skin's talking to you, and a good skincare professional understands the language of the skin. So you
Mhm.
said a couple things there. Let's take little breakouts, okay? Do
Yeah.
you know there's a molecule that's produced by cells that mostly live in your intestine that is responsible for vasodilation, like rosacea,
Mhm.
pimples, sensitive skin? Some people who have excess amounts of this molecule will actually break out in the sun. They'll go out
Mhm.
in the sun and they'll get sun rashes. What the heck is going on there? Or they'll go in a shower, they'll take a hot shower and they'll get a rash from the hot shower or from their bra strap or the lining on their underwear. What's going on? There are people who can sign their name in their skin with their fingernail.
Mhm.
Have you ever heard this? It's called dermographia. You actually can
Mhm.
sign your name. You do a party trick. What the heck's going on? Well, it turns out there's a molecule that's produced in cells. They're called mast cells that live in the intestine. Have you heard this?
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
It sounds like you got a background here, so this is good.
yeah.
So they produce a molecule called histamine,
Yep.
and histamine is a major player in almost all skin issues, and nobody's talking about this. What causes histamine? Well, histamine released from mast cells? Dysbiosis, disturbances at the level of the intestine. There are foods that we think are good foods, like avocados and citrus, that are histamine producing foods. Leftovers can produce histamine. Sprouts and fermented foods, which are ordinarily good, are sources of histamine. So, number one, you've got to control for histamine at the level of the intestine and at the level of the digestive system. Number two, you've got to control for this dysbiosis issue, which is the wrong kinds of bacteria in the intestine being secreted literally into the bloodstream. Little pieces of bacteria from your intestine. They call them lipopolysaccharides or LPSs. You may have heard of these. And
Mhm.
these LPSs wreak havoc the immune system and the circulatory system. I'm going to talk about the circulatory system here in a second because that's so important. And then when you have issues at the level of the intestine, not only do you have to deal with endotoxins or lipopolysaccharides or these bacterial secretions and histamine and aldehydes and various chemicals in the blood, but you also now have to deal with malabsorption because
Mhm.
nutrients are absorbed through the intestine. So you get this 1-2 punch of functional malnourishment plus toxicity. So working on the intestine is absolutely critical. And I always tell people who are having a skin problem or any health problem really to do a food diary. Write down everything you eat and write down when you break out, and you'll be amazed by what you find out. There are also natural antihistamines you could take. Vitamin C, for example, is a natural antihistamine. Melatonin is a natural antihistamine. Cannabinoids have antihistaminic properties. Zinc has antihistaminic properties. So making sure that you're nutriated effectively. But this all leads to something that's really interesting and that nobody talks about, and that is the main source of disease inducing chemistry, or health inducing chemistry, if you will, and that's the blood.
Mhm.
All disease is cell disease. Remember, I said there's no such thing as breast cancer, there's breast cell cancer. There's no diabetes, there's pancreatic cell issues. Doctors love to name things, got all this nomenclature. But really, at the end of the day, it's not the diagnosis, it's the cellular dysfunction that's causing the problem. So all disease is cell disease. But all disease, and when I say disease, I don't want people thinking, oh, Parkinson's and cancer and heart disease. I want them thinking rosacea and psoriasis and eczema and even dry skin.
Mhm.
All disease is cell disease, but all cell disease is preceded by dirty blood. And that's the key. In the Bible, it says the life of the flesh is in the blood. It's all about the blood. And that's where disease or health is initiated. So when we have dry skin, we got a blood problem. When we have psoriasis, we got a blood problem. When we got
Mhm.
melasma, we got a blood problem. And so the key is understanding the nature of the circulatory system and how to keep the blood moving. And one of the classic examples I talk about all the time is probably the biggest skincare problem that human beings have, or skincare complaint that human beings have. So what would you guess, as a young, beautiful, healthy 23-year-old, what would you guess is the biggest problem people have with their skin? Number one, by far, not even close.
Uh, Wrinkles maybe?
No, no, no. That's old people.
No.
Everybody has this problem. Number one problem, dry skin.
My skin. Okay.
Everybody has dry skin. I do talks. I have to say, how many people in the room have dry skin? Everybody raises their hand. But
Mhm.
how can this be? We sell in the United States, and I'm sure in the UK it's something it's similar per capita. In the
Mhm.
United States, we sell $10 billion a year in moisturizing creams
Mhm.
or moisturizing products. How can everybody have dry skin? There are people who have moisturizers in their closet, in their cabinet, in their locker, and in their purse, and two in their office, and one in their desk, and five in the bathroom. We're
Mhm.
moisturizing all the time. There are people who can't go 10 minutes without putting a moisturizer on. What's going on? Why is it that everybody's using moisturizer, which, by the way, is the dumbest word in the English language because there's
Mhm.
no such thing as a moisturizer? Why is everybody using moisturizers and everybody has dry skin?
Mhm.
Because dry skin has nothing to do with a moisturizer. In fact, the dumbest thing we could do to our dry skin is put a moisturizer on it. And that's why people get addicted to their moisturizers, because the more you use, the more you need.
Mhm.
And by the way, we love that at Blistex. Remember, I said the lips are like super skin, right?
Yeah.
There are people who can't go 10 minutes without putting a lip product on because their lips are so dry. And it never dawns on them that maybe it's the product that's causing the dry skin, right?
Mhm.
And that's exactly what happens. You see, the skin has an ability to moisturize itself, but if you suppress it by putting a film or occlusion on the surface, it's not going to be able to do its work. You're essentially suffocating this beautiful, exquisite, responsive, intelligent organ called the skin. So where does the skin become moist? Well, first of all, how how does hydration occur? How does skin stay hydrated? Well, here's a clue for you. Babies don't have dry skin. Little kids
Mhm.
don't have dry skin. Dry skin is a degenerative condition. It gets worse as you get older. Old people have really dry skin. And not only that, but diabetics, I don't know if you know this or not, are notorious for having the most dry, cracked, awful skin. So
Mhm.
what is the degenerative what is the basis of dry skin that is degenerative and that is associated with things like dysglycemia or disturbances in blood sugar? Well, what happens is under healthy conditions, as the blood is circulating, it comes to the skin, comes to little tiny capillaries in the skin,
Mhm.
and water droplets come out. And this is how the skin stays hydrated from the blood. The
Mhm.
water droplets come out, or water molecules come out of the capillaries, and they get sucked up in the skin. That's how skin stays moist. But what happens as we get older? As the accumulation of leaky gut and dysglycemia and vasoconstriction from cortisol kick in, a sluggish circulation from hypothyroidism kick in, what happens? The blood doesn't move effectively. And when the blood doesn't move effectively, it doesn't get to the capillaries and the water doesn't come out. And the source of dry skin is dirty, congested, sluggish, thick, viscous,
Mhm.
clotted blood. It's
Mm.
the key to everything, including dry skin. When you have eczema or you have some kind of immune problem in the skin, that's because of histamine in the blood in the circulation, or other immune molecules, cytokines and such that are in the circulatory system. Do
Mhm.
you know that the collagen, which is the connective tissue, is actually a filter for the blood? And that as the blood is circulating, it's being filtered out by the collagen. And all of that dirt is going into the collagen,
Oh.
breaking down the collagen. This is where autoimmune diseases come from. This is
Mhm.
where collagen degradation comes from. This is where kidney disease comes from, and diseases of the matrix, the extracellular matrix, come from. And this is where wrinkles come from, and accelerated aging comes from, and barrier disruptions come from. So keeping the blood clean is critical, and that always happens first from digestive health,
Mhm.
second from blood sugar health, and then third, if you want to throw one more strategy, cortisol or the adrenal glands and the thyroid. And so you can see that having beautiful skin is definitely achievable, but it's not going to be by rubbing some stuff on the surface and hoping for the best. You've got to have topical nutrition. You've got to be able to change the electrical milieu of the stratum corneum, the
Hmm.
corneocytes, the water, as well as the keratinocytes in the basal layer and the fibroblasts in the dermis. And you've got to understand at least the basics of circulatory health, digestive health, and blood sugar health, and the adrenal thyroid complex.
Those are some wonderful strategies. Thank you for sharing that.
And by the way, because now that you know that it's the blood that's delivering the water and the water has to be coherent, you ain't going to fix your dry skin by drinking more water. That's a myth. And there's
Mhm.
nobody on planet Earth who's ever had their dry skin improve by drinking more water, unless they were starving or they were dehydrated in the desert or something like that. But for
Mhm.
most people, you're not going to affect changes in your moisture level by drinking water. You got to build collagen, you got to support the barrier, and you got to lay off that moisturizing cream and use true treatments, transdermal vitamin C and retinol and alpha hydroxy acids, etc. And by the
Yeah,
way, you can get my Truth Treatments at truthtreatments.com.
lovely. I wanted to ask actually, just coming back to the steps that we can take, what would you recommend that like are actionable things that people can do
Yeah.
at like food or just skincare products?
Well,
Like,
they're both. They're
do
both important. They're both
yeah.
important. First, the most important thing you could do topically
Mhm.
is exercise your skin. That's
Mhm.
called exfoliation.
Mhm.
And to this day, I can blows me away that I hear people say, don't exfoliate.
Mhm.
It's the stupidest thing. That's like saying don't exercise. Oh, you don't want to go to the gym. You're going to hurt your muscles. Oh, you don't want to hurt those little sensitive muscles of yours. Well, that's
Mhm.
dumb because when you break up the muscles, they get bigger. Likewise with exfoliation. Exfoliation is critical. It's a must. And
Mhm.
anybody who tells you not to exfoliate might as well tell you not to go to the gym. And then after you exfoliate, you want to drive in nutrients, particularly minerals, electrolytes, and then fat soluble vitamin C. There's a lot of misunderstandings about vitamin C. You need fat soluble vitamin C. That's the only
Mhm.
kind we use, not the ascorbic acid, not the cheap kind. And
Mhm.
then retinol. And there's a lot of misunderstandings about retinol as well. And then also, it wouldn't hurt to have some niacin on the skin and some other topical vitamins. So exfoliate with alpha hydroxy acids, drive in minerals and topical nutrients, particularly fat soluble vitamin C and retinol. Internally, first of all, the less you eat, the better off you're going to be.
Mhm.
Eating is very overrated. And we all love to eat, not necessarily because we need to eat from a nourishment perspective. We eat from a mental perspective. Think about it. Don't you sometimes say, "Oh, that sounds good." We eat from our ears, right? Or,
Yeah.
"Oh, that looks good." We eat from our eyes. How many times have you been to a restaurant and you look in the menu and you go, "Oh, I don't know what I want to eat. I had the tuna fish. Yes, I'm sick of tuna fish. I don't
Mhm.
want, if you don't know what you want to eat, you ain't hungry. Don't eat. You know, Eating
Mhm.
is very, very hard on the body. And when you do eat nutrient dense and eat low on the totem pole, unrefined as you could be. The refining process not only depletes the foods of nutrients, but it depletes the foods of enzymes, living enzymes. So this is why living food is so important. Sprouts and algae and yeasts, and of course vegetables. Not so much fruits, because our fruits today are bred to be super high sugar. Fiber is really important, and fiber is a great way to reduce your appetite because it's very filling. And then, of course, nutritional supplements, because it's really difficult to get what you need from foods. So while we've talked about topical nutrition, internal nutrition is critical. And you wouldn't believe the kinds of turnarounds that I have seen in Parkinson's disease, in heart disease, in hypertension, in autoimmune problems, multiple sclerosis, simply by modifying the diet and putting people on nutritional supplements. And the same thing is true about psoriasis and eczema and dry skin and melasma or hyperpigmentation, barrier issues, acne. None of these are inevitable. Nobody has to have acne. Nobody has to have eczema or any other skin disease, rosacea, or whatever. The beautiful thing about the skin is when we see a problem on the skin, Shreya, it's
Mhm.
a reaction. And what is a reaction? It's a response to an action. So if you want to end your eczema, change the action. If you want to end your acne or your rosacea or your dry skin,
Mhm.
change your action. That means change what you're putting into the bloodstream through the digestive system and add in nutrition, and especially in the form of nutritional supplements, particularly the fats. You mentioned omegas earlier, and that's the first thing. Essential fatty acids are critical for skin health. but so are phospholipids like lecithin. So is the fatty vitamins, vitamins E and D and A and K. And there's two minerals that are they're not fats really, but they're handled by the fatty system. And they're probably the two most important minerals for the skin. And that is zinc and selenium. And of course, the
Oh,
amino acids. I forgot to mention those. The amino acids are what trap the water in the surface. You have elements in the skin surface that are called the natural moisture factor. And the natural moisture factor, have you heard of these elements? They're
no.
molecules that are in corneocytes. I know we're going to run out of time here, but let me just say this real quick. The way the
Yeah.
skin works, it's so cool how the skin works. So
Mhm.
your skin is stratified, it's layered, right? Like lasagna or like baklava. So you have the bottom, right? The basal layer. Well, actually, let's digress here. You have the stratum corneum, which is the surface, and people say it's dead, and it is made of dead cells, but there's still chemistry that's going on there. Then underneath there's the epidermis, and then there's the dermis, right? So the dermis is most of your skin. 90% of your skin is your dermis. And just to give you a sense of scale, the dermis is like 9 pieces of notebook paper thick. The epidermis is 1 piece of notebook paper thick, and the
Okay.
stratum corneum is about a tenth of a piece of notebook paper thick, right?
Mhm.
So the entire skin is like 11 pieces of notebook paper. The
Mhm.
whole organ, and this
Mhm.
whole thing. Can you imagine? And
Mhm.
so at the bottom of the epidermis, we'll leave the dermis aside for now. At the bottom of the epidermis, you have the basal layer, the base layer. And this is where the keratinocytes, the skin cells, technically they're called keratinocytes, are born. In biology or biochemistry, CYTE, that means cell, right?
Mhm.
Osteocyte is a bone cell, myocyte is a muscle cell, cardiocyte is a heart cell. A keratinocyte is a cell that makes keratin, right?
Mhm.
Your fingernails are keratin. So keratinocyte is making keratin. It lives in the bottom of it's born in the bottom in the basal layer. And this is the coolest thing, what I'm going to say right now. This is how the skin develops its structure. The keratinocyte, born on the bottom, round and plump and juicy,
Mhm.
rises up to the top. And as it's rising up to the top, it's shape shifting. It's morphing. It's going from round and plump at the basal layer, gradually becoming more flat and more dead as it rises to the top. And as it's rising to the top, it's throwing its contents overboard. So it's becoming empty. And as
Mhm.
it rises to the top and becomes flat and dead, eventually it reaches the top. And at the top, it's flat and dead. Starts its life round and plump and juicy at the bottom, ends its life flat and dead at the top, just like people. Round and plump and juicy at
Yeah.
the beginning, flat and dead at the end, right? And the flat and dead cells at the top, at the stratum corneum, are protective. They form the barrier. But
Mhm.
here's where it becomes really cool. Those contents that get thrown overboard as the cell's rising from the bottom to top, those become skin lipids, skin
Mhm.
fats, which means the more cells that are rising to the top, the healthier your skin lipids are going to be. And as the cell is rising from the top, there are proteins and other molecules in the skin cell that are shape shifting themselves, and they're going to become the natural moisture factor that will reside in the corneocytes, the dead cells on the surface, and then are going to suck water up from the air, from the ambient humidity. So you live in the
Mhm.
UK, right? There's lots of ambient humidity in the UK. So you have these natural moisture factor cells, moisture factor molecules that are sucking up the moisture from the ambient humidity. And then you come to Colorado, you decide you're going to visit Ben in Colorado where there's no ambient humidity, and you go,
Mhm.
oh my God, I'm really dry. Well,
Mhm.
guess what? If you wait a week, your natural moisture factor will adapt and you'll make more natural moisture factor. But most people don't wait a week. What most people do is they slather on a
Mhm.
moisturizer, shutting down the natural moisture factor. And then their moisturizer wears off, and now their skin's really dry because they didn't make enough natural moisture factor. And the creams and the lotions shut down the movement of the keratinocyte. They suppress the movement of the keratinocyte so they're not making the lipids. So what do you do then? You put more moisturizer on and you further suppress the natural moisture factor and further suppress the lipids. And then you go, oh, I'm really dry. I better get that super intense moisturizer that nice lady or nice doctor told me about. And the same thing happens. And this is how we treat our skin because we don't understand the mechanisms. And this is why, by the way, exfoliation is so important because with exfoliation, you turn everything on.
Mhm.
When you exfoliate, you get more keratinocytic growth, more movement, and that means more moisture factors, and that means more lipids. So exfoliation, if you're healthy, is one of the best things you could do to treat your dry skin. And then after you exfoliate, you make sure you drive in your fat-soluble vitamin C, your retinol, your niacin, your vitamin E, and all the other ingredients. If you're going to use our true treatments, you'll have it all made up for you. And that's why one of the first things that happens when people start to use our protocols and our products is they don't have dry skin anymore. The next thing that happens is they go out without their makeup. That's the greatest compliment that I ever get is I can finally go out without my makeup, because makeup is like imitating what your skin should look like when you're using your truth treatments.
Mhm. Oh, that was so insightful with the keratinocytes as well, because I never knew that before, with
Isn't
how
that
it
interesting? That's the
works.
coolest
Yeah,
thing
it's
as a
very
lover
cool.
of the skin.
Now, I just wanted to ask actually before we finish, would you
Yeah.
like a quick game of rapid fire? I like to do this with my guests.
Yes.
It's like
Quick game of rapid fire.
questions. Yeah,
Yes.
so let's start. What's one product that we should stop buying in 2026?
You're gonna hate me for this. Everybody's gonna hate me for this. Sunscreens.
Ooh, do you want to elaborate a little bit?
Yes, they're nasty chemicals. You want zinc oxide to protect your skin, and you want to make sure you're using nutrients internally. Stay away from chemical sunscreens, which are now banned in Hawaii and other places because they kill the coral and they don't do your skin any good. Stay away from chemical sunscreens. Use zinc oxide only.
I'm on that zinc oxide sunscreen already. I'm really happy about
Uh,
that. But next question. In the morning, what do you prefer? Coffee, lemon water, or vitamin C for skincare?
You're so cute. That's a
Mhm,
great question. Lemon water has vitamin, as you say, vitamin
mhm,
C. We say vitamin, but
mhm.
vitamin
Oh,
C.
yes, vitamin C.
Yeah, you're very cute. Vitamin C. Lemon water is great. It has
Mhm,
vitamin C in it,
mhm,
but it doesn't have a lot. So I
mhm.
would throw some vitamin C in my lemon water, but lemon water is awesome
Okay,
first thing in the morning.
very
Water
cool.
in general, I drink 32 ounces of water first thing, of hydrogen water, which is a whole nother story, first
Mhm.
thing in the morning, because in the morning you're dehydrated because at night, you haven't drank water for 8 hours. You've gone to the bathroom a couple times. You sweat. Most of us are dehydrated first thing in the morning. And one of the reasons why we need coffee is because we're dehydrated. And so if you drink water first thing, you might not even need your coffee, or you'll need less coffee.
Lovely. What's the biggest myth in luxury skincare, according to you?
That if you feel something on the skin is doing something, that more ingredients are better, that expensive products are going to be better than less expensive products. What else? That ingredients that don't feed the cell are going to have an effect on the skin, such as botanicals, for example. And I love herbs. I work with herbs a lot, but
Mhm.
botanicals are not going to feed the cell. They may protect the cell, but they're not going to feed the cell.
Very nice. What is one food that's an absolute no-go for skin health?
There's so many. Seed oils.
Seed
And I
oils.
never use seed oils in I never have used
Mhm.
seed oils in my skincare products. You're starting to hear a lot of stuff about, you know what I mean by seed oils?
For like
Processed seed oils.
olive oils and stuff, or
Any processed oil that
Mhm,
has a long chain fatty acids in it. So
mhm.
these long chain fatty acids are very readily disturbed by processing, and they create pro-oxidants. Sugar also, anything with refined sugar. And in general, refined foods are
Mhm.
no-goes.
Fair. Now, in terms of like a non-skincare habit, do you prefer sleeping well, breath work, or cold showers for
Oh my
longevity?
God, they're all three important. They're
Mhm.
all
Do
they're
you have a
all three.
favorite?
Breath. I do have. I do breath work every day. Breath work's amazing.
Yeah.
Cold showers are good, but I
Mhm,
don't have the intestinal fortitude to do cold showers. And then what
mhm.
was the first thing you said?
Sleep, like getting enough sleep.
Sleep's important too. Yes, meditation's also important. You can get away with less sleep if you meditate.
Very cool, very cool. What's the most like surprising thing that you've learned in your 40 years in the industry?
Skincare,
Yeah.
skincare. The most shocking thing is that we don't understand the skin and that we don't understand our bodies. And by the way, as a woman, and I
Mhm,
work with women a lot in women's health, it always blows me away that women don't understand their hormones or their cycles.
mhm. Yeah,
It's
that's something
so
that's
important.
recently, like, coming into light, but we really do need to understand more about, like, women health so much more.
Women's health, because the women's hormone cycles fluctuate so much.
Yeah.
So that always blows me away. If I was a woman, I would be studying my hormones.
Yep, guys,
Hardcore.
our
How they
listeners, do
It's
that.
so important. Yes. Otherwise
Uh,
you gotta have a guy like me tell you. What the heck do I know about,
yeah.
about your No, I'm just kidding. I study women's health a lot.
Yeah.
Progesterone, by the way, is an amazing hormone that's very
Mhm,
underleveraged. Topical
mhm.
progesterone.
Yeah, very cool. Now, if you had to give advice to, like, a 20-something-year-old, what would you say to, like, age
Take
well?
start take Start taking care of your skin now. Use topical strategies. It's not too early. Our skin starts to age around 18 or 19, believe it or not.
Mhm,
So take care of your skin now and make sure you're taking care of your digestive health and your
mhm.
blood sugar health, and calm the body down. Activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest nervous system. Next time we do a talk, if I come back, we'll talk about that
We'd
whole
love to have you.
parasympathetic sympathetic dichotomy.
Lovely, and if you had to describe the skin in just one word, how would you describe it?
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. Oh,
Very apt.
such
I think the human body
incredible.
in general is just
In
a
general, yeah.
thing.
In
Yeah,
general, it's just
very
so
apt.
amazing. Yeah, I'm a
And anyways, the last one is if someone could try one product from Truth Treatments to see immediate results, what would it be?
Truth Transdermal C Serum. 79% fat soluble vitamin C. 79% fat soluble vitamin C. That's unheard of.
Lovely, guys. You heard it here. But thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. This was an amazing way to start season three as well. And thanks for
Thank you.
bridging actionable steps with skincare. And
Thank you.
congratulations on the success of Truth Treatments as well. It's been
Thank you, Shreya.
great
I
to see.
appreciate that so much. And
So do you have,
congratulations on the success of your podcast. I can't believe you're so young. You've got a great, powerful life ahead of you. I can already tell.
thank you. Thank you. Do you have any
Thank you.
words for our listeners about,
Yes. If you have a health challenge, let's say you're not sick, you're starving. You don't need to be fixed. You need to be fed. This whole thing, this whole life experience, not to mention the human body and the organs within it, including the skin, are miracles. Praise
Mhm.
God at every turn.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And I
Thank
will see
you.
you guys in the next episode. Bye.